Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bread for Soul Convos. This is the 75th episode. I've been doing this for 75 days every weekday from 9 a.m. South African time, but we do restream on YouTube a bit later. And this show for me, it really has been about sharing knowledge and experiences with anyone, really, not only aspiring artists, but someone like Greg Maloka yesterday was telling me that even though I've been chatting to some of the people who are his peers, who are his friends, but he never got to ask certain questions, and he would learn other things that he never knew about people that are close to him as friends in the industry. And today I'm so honored to be hosting a Grammy winner, on the show. Like really, Louis, welcome to the show. Thank you so much, firstly, for joining me.
Hey, how are you, man? Happy to be here.
Great. I'm great, thank you. And I'm ecstatic, really. Firstly, because I've been, trying to get you on. Like I've been trying, just like really working towards this moment, and it's a weird thing because I try to always hide my excitement when I first connect with guests because we connect before we record, and because I just want to leave everything for the show. Firstly, I'm so humbled to be having and to be speaking to someone of your caliber, someone I've looked up to for such a long time. And many people I'm sure have looked up to. And firstly, I think we should just start there. So thank you so much, brother.
Sweet, man. That's very kind. I appreciate your words, man.
Yeah, so your 2018 album, you got a Grammy nomination in 2018 for LOUIE Vega starring album, which had 28 songs and a lot of artists on board. But I want to ask you because, like, when I first heard the story, I was like, really, first solo album that you did, even after so many years, after so much success. Why did it take so long for us to get a Louis solo album?
I guess a lot of my albums that I had done before were always collaborating with my partners, and from the very beginnings of the When the Night Is Over album, which I uh, produced and also was co-artist with Mark Anthony. Then, of course, at the same time, Masters at Work, when Kenny and I formed Masters at Work. So my albums have always been either with someone else, people that were very close to me and that we worked with. We had been working and started working together, and also later on to the ensembles, the bands that I put together, like Elements of Life, and of course the project with Kenny that we've done, New York and Soul. So
Mm,
I guess it. I just started working on this project, and I wanted to bring together a lot of amazing artists from different genres of music that I had worked with over the years, and new artists as well that I had never worked with. So as I started making this album, it was like I'm gonna make 12 songs. Okay, I ended up making like 40 songs and rounded it down to 28, I believe, songs
yeah,
with just a wide selection of super talent.
yeah,
So it was really a way of taking everything full cycle on the house and soulful vibes for me.
yeah, yeah. And just still staying on that album, you worked with two South Africans. I mean, like you've always kind of collaborated with people from SA. One of the songs which were not on the album was Kisses with Wanda Baloy. But you've also, back in the days, did stuff with Spikiri and Brahuma Sikela on Kalawa Jasmine. But specifically for the Louis Vega starring album, you worked with Busi and Kalo, who are so amazing. But what was it about those two artists that you wanted to feature, or have them as part of the album?
Well, Boosie had come to New York, and she came down to Roots, my party that I had with Kevin Hedge, Roots NYC, that I did at Cielo. on Wednesday nights. And when she came, she did this impromptu thing, and I gave her the mic, and she just ripped it. The crowd went mad. It was beautiful. She sang all her big jams, and then we had been talking about working together. So she's one that I always wanted to work with ever since she had the songs "Coffee" and everything after that. Love her voice. She's very talented, and I thought getting together. Of course, Josh, my longtime collaborator. I first reached out to him and said, "Hey, let's you know, I want to do a song for. I want to produce a song for Boosie." And we had written this song called "Angels Are Watching Me," and it was actually written for Philip Bailey of Earth, Wind, and Fire,
Yeah.
because he was looking for material. But somehow, I guess it never got around to getting him the song, and I had that song, and I thought it would be perfect for Boosie to sing. And when she heard it, she loved it, and it just came together.
Yeah.
And then with Kalo, I had been playing one of his tracks. I played it so much, and loved his voice, and I loved the way he incorporated his R&B and soulful sounds into house music.
Mm.
And I definitely had the track and made it specifically for his voice and for him, and sent it over to House Africa, to the fellas over there, Tim and everybody, and they got it to him, and he just did a great job. He wrote a beautiful song,
Mm.
on the track. So for me, I just wanted two soulful voices that I felt could represent the sounds of South Africa when it came to soulful house.
Mm.
And I thought I made the right choices. I mean, I definitely know I made the right choices, because I was happy with the outcome, and
Yeah.
they did an amazing uh, piece on the tracks.
Yeah. They sure did. I can't help but ask you, how much influence then, or direction do you then put when you're collaborating with artists like that remotely, when you're not in studio with people, where you can actually direct what you feel could be done with the song, especially at a production level? Or is it a matter of just sending stuff back and forth like that?
Well, I think in most cases, I definitely like to work in the studio with the artist. 95% of the time, you know, that whole album was made with myself and the artist in the studio when they were singing their vocals. But in some cases, that wasn't. But then that could also work well, because I mean, you obviously have to go back and forth if you want something changed or something different. But in this case, you know, it was hit nail on. You know, um, when I worked with Kalo, I sent him the tracks, and he was in South Africa, so he wasn't in New York. I was in New York, and I was traveling, and he was touring as well.
Mm.
So he was able to put it together there. And sometimes I may go back and ask for more, or but in these cases, I got just enough material from them, and the performance was there. That was the most important, was the performance.
Mm. Mm.
Another track that I did that way was Elevator. Monique Bingham was moving around, touring so much, and I was touring, that we could not get to this in the same place at the same times. But the track that I sent her, that I had written with Axel Tosca for Elevator, um, there was a lot there to work with. We had a lot of melody with the piano,
Mm.
and it was really wonderful when she sent it back, and I saw how she followed the piano with her lyric,
Mm.
and followed that melody, and put beautiful harmonies. Man, that one was meant to be, because it came to me just as you hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
She just laid down the right parts. An amazing song. I love what it was about.
Mm.
Usually when I'm working with a songwriter, I'm not a lyricist. I mean, I can come up with great titles. I can come up with melodies and hooks, but to write verses and get deep like that, that's what I got Josh there for. And, you know, and songwriters also like other songwriters like Monique Bingham or BB Winans, and you know, they're amazing. But when Josh and I get together, he would ask me, "What do you want to write about?" And
Mm.
I would just let him know, and we just have to me it's like the perfect connection. He would come back with something and it's right on. I'm like, okay, and then we build from that, and
Mm.
it becomes this whole thing. Sometimes we work in the studio together, or sometimes I would talk ideas with him, and the concept of the song, and he would lay it down in his studio because he lives about 2 hours away from me.
Mm. Okay.
We're not really close. I mean, we're not living close to each other, so we can't just pop in. But he does come to my studio from his place, and I've gone to his,
Mm.
and we do work together. So it's different for, you know, depends on the situation.
Yes, yes. And there are so many songs from that album which I feel have been overlooked. Maybe it's because I'm such a fan of soulful music, and especially sometimes the not so popular stuff, but like which I really feel. But this is such a dope track. One of those songs for me is the tune you did with Zara McFarlane, Because We Love It. And it's such an amazing song. I remember there's a gig that I played. I was playing peak set, like I think 1 a.m. type of thing. It was an outdoor gig, and it was the feel was kind of a bit hard. The guy before me who was playing, it was actually a performance, but the energy was so high, and I just decided to come through to start with a jazz song like that, and from there the night was made for me. And but I have to ask you about that song. Was it at all inspired by Pharaoh Saunders's "You've Got to Have Freedom"?
Yes, for sure. That's classic. We love that jam. I mean, rhythm wise, yeah. I've always wanted to do a jazzy song with that flavor. And I met Zara McFarlane through Giles Peterson because she's on Brownswood, which is his label.
Yeah.
And he always used to bring her up in a conversation when we talked. And he said, "Louis, you have to meet Zara McFarlane. I think you and her would really create some great music together." And I started when I was touring one winter, I believe. We already started talking online, emailing each other and talking about doing uh, a song together. And then when I went to play at the Ministry of Sound, she lived a few hours away. I don't believe she lived in London, but she came all the way to the show just to have that 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And in those 5 minutes, we talked about the song and everything, and she just knocked it out. And that was another case where I couldn't work with her in the studio because she lives in London, outside London, and I'm here in New York, in New Jersey. But we went back and forth a few times, and she actually sent two different songs. And what I did was I combined the two songs, and it became Because We Love It. It's very interesting the way that song was put together.
Wow.
It's two totally different songs, two different hooks, two different things, and I arranged it so that they work together. And she was very happy with it, and we actually worked together again this past November because you know we had so much fun working on Because We Love It that I really wanted her on the Elements of Life album because of her jazz,
Mm.
background and influence. And
Yeah.
I invited her to play some of the shows live with us. So we did Because We Love It, and um, actually in London we played at the Royal Festival Hall with Elements of Life live, and I invited her down, and she did it. Wow, she really blew it away. So we wrote a new song for the New Elements of Life album, which will be for next year.
Super, super. And sorry to cut you. Just on the new Elements of Life albums, because I've seen you recently posting about re-releasing the albums, the Elements of Life and the Extensions album, which were for me are classic albums in 1998. Especially the Extensions one, because when a friend of mine had the CD, I struggled taking it back to him. When I borrowed the CD. What was the issue about with getting the albums back so you can re-release them on your label again?
Well, I had 6 albums that the rights reverted back to me. So some were licensed out to BBE, uh, you know, or some never got the chance to come out in the digital and streaming world.
Mm,
So it just happened that in 2019, towards the end, uh, all those albums came back, and I wanted to repackage them and release them again, but through Vega Records, and I wanted to add new unreleased tracks and extra tracks. So I still had them on hold, and this whole thing happened with the COVID thing and everything. So I thought best to put out this music and let everybody experience the Elements of Life and Luisito Quintero history, as well as Anane, and Bodhisattva. Those are all the albums. It's Elements of Life, EOL extensions, and Percussion Madness Revisited. Those are the 4 I've released so far. The next one is Anane Chapters of Becoming, where I've put all of her big hits and all the mixes that were big all under one album, and it sounds really amazing when you hear all those songs that really hit different areas internationally around the world. And we got some remixes coming from Manu and Mike Dunn. Danny Cribbett did an edit,
nice.
and I'm actually talking to Maporisa right now. So I'm really giving everybody who had the experience with some of those songs some new material, and as well introducing the youth and everyone to all these beautiful sounds, which you're able now to uh, buy digitally or stream.
Mm, mm. And I mean, I will ask you about Elements of Life a bit later as we go on with our conversations, with our conversation. But I wanna know from you. I'm a firm believer that true fulfillment, and longevity, it really matters, but it's really about progress. Some people get to a certain level of, or reach certain levels of success, and because from there isn't any progress, you still start seeing people falling off something that they were so passionate about. And for somebody who reached your levels of success, I mean, you won a Grammy, you've been nominated a couple of times for more Grammys. Um, what are some of the things that really keep you going back to studio and just having some kind of progression with your own career?
I think it's my passion for music. I just really love music. I love making music. I love playing music. I love traveling the world and just bringing happiness to people. And that's what I'm here for. You know, I think that when I'm in the studio, uh, the creative levels, I mean, I think that from my experiences of traveling, from my experiences in life, I'm able to make the music that I make. And my mind is always turning, it's always turning. I'm always thinking about new things, new ways, new collaborations, bringing in new people, as well as the veterans that I've been with for so many years.
Mm,
Um, I think inspiration comes in many different forms. It can be just me hanging out with my wife and my son, with us being together. And that's another thing. Being able to have uh, Anani and Nico, and within the music, we're making music together. We're sometimes we're in Ibiza for the summer together with our residency over there, or we may just be home. I'll be in the studio with my son because now he's in the studio and he has his studio, and he's working on music, making music with him, or a Nane recording down here in the studio, and us creating. You know, to me, those things get me really excited, and they really bring forth a lot of inspiration.
Yeah.
So I'm not tired of it. That's it. I'm just not tired of it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love this music. I love creating music. I love making music. I love playing music. These stream live shows that I'm doing now, that I've been doing for goodness since April 20th. You know, from every day for 6 weeks to 3 days a week for another 6 weeks, and now 2 days a week on worldwidefm.net during the lockdown sessions. It's been really a beautiful experience because if you listen to the repertoire of music that I played, I've been digging into my collection and playing all kinds of music. And I think that me being able to share my knowledge with the youth out there, just anyone out there, uh, that's important. That's important because I think that we need to know where it comes from.
Mm.
You know?
Mm. Yeah.
Obviously, in order to know where you're going, but I'm having a lot of fun with these shows. These stream lives, and now being at home, I'm thinking even more about new ideas and new things to do.
Mm.
You know, I'm really passionate about it, and I think you can see that. You probably, if you watch me play music, I'm in it. I'm
Yeah.
totally in it.
Yeah.
I'm totally in it.
I've definitely seen it. Like I the first time I saw you live, and it was really in close proximity because you were recording a set for Vinny's house when you were here in South Africa. And I've worked for that production company for the past 10 years, since 2010. So I was there. I was the one doing the recordings, and at the time I couldn't even ask for a picture, because for me, to see an icon like you, I couldn't even talk. Like all I could do was just like make sure that you're okay, you and Moses, everything was fine for you guys. But you could see the passion, like when you play, it just I don't even, just looking at you, it just feels different. It feels like somebody who's really in it. And I think when a DJ is playing like that, the crowd can see it. Immediately when you play and people see you like that, people can feel what you do. And I will talk to you about the DJing, especially with regards to playing here in South Africa. But I want to talk a bit about Masters at Work, because I watched some interviews that you did, and I've heard that you and Kenny used to do 5 different versions of a remix of one remix, 5 different versions in a night, but only actually give out two. How much time actually were you guys spending in studio?
Man, we were spending like 16 to 18 hours a day, really.
Yeah.
5 days a week. We were heavy in it, man. We were just heavy in it for 10 years straight. And I guess that's why you hear, so much of the music that we've made and how, it affected so many people around the world.
Mm.
We were definitely super dedicated, and the recording process was really intense. It was but fun, you know. And we had a lot of great people around us, a lot of great engineers: David Darlington, Steve Barkin, Yaz, Phil Pagano. Goodness, we had a wonderful team who would work around the clock if they had to as well with us.
Mm.
You know, and yeah, we used to do a lot of the music for each of the remixes. There was different vibes, you know, different drum kits, different sounds, and yeah, there would always be 4 or 5 ideas, and we'd use 2 tracks for the remixes, one for the main, one for the dub. So yeah, there's a lot of unreleased and lost tracks that are in our masters, which are stored in a an amazing facility that is temperature controlled and everything, you know, for all these years.
Yeah, and will
But we're
we?
about to do. We're about to take about 20 of the. They're in 2 inches, you know, the 2 inch tapes, the multi tracks. We're gonna take about 20 at a time and get them baked and see what's in there, you know, and because there's definitely a whole other library of music up in those tapes.
Man,
You know, we've actually been working now
yeah.
in the studio. We figured out a way to work remotely because he lives 2 hours and a half away from me. So we were getting a couple of remix requests, and people wanted, you know, us to get in the studio to see if we would do some projects. And we had the first project that came in was for an artist named Dua Lipa, and she's a big pop artist out here in the U.S. I'm sure internationally. And the Blessed Madonna reached out because she's doing a mixtape, and she curated a lot of the remixers. You know, she picked all the remixers to come together to work on this project on a song each.
Mm.
So Kenny and I like, okay, well, we should do this project. This should be a Masters at Work project. And how will we do this if we're, you know, living so far apart?
Mm.
You know, I had just been in his studio in March. We were together March 7th to be exact, because I was playing in Baltimore on March 8th. So I drove out. I rarely drive out to do a gig, but I like driving out to Baltimore, Washington, you know, near areas that are about 3 hours away, 3.5 hours. And I stood over there one night and went into the studio, and we just started jamming out. It was amazing. We had a great time. But after that, you know, the whole thing happened with COVID. I haven't been out for 5 months now. It's going to be 5 months on August 9th. And we needed to figure out a way to work. And my engineer lives in Brooklyn, so he's far away as well. He has to get here through public transportation. So I said, that's not a good idea yet.
Mm.
So let me figure out what to do. You know, my son has his studio, a little studio upstairs in his room. And as a gift, Anane and I got him Ableton. We got him the Sweet package and Push as well. And he's got a controller. So we noticed he started making tracks. Like he learned how to use this on his own. And he just started busting out tracks. We're hearing all this great music coming out of his room. And I'm saying to myself, okay, how can I do this? I said, well, Kenny, I said, Nico is upstairs and he knows how to use Ableton. You know, why don't I overdub with Nico programming and being like the engineer upstairs, you know, in his studio? So I said, let's try it. It's the only way. So Kenny, they sent me the acapella, the vocal stems, and I sent them over to Kenny. Kenny laid down a beat. I mean, actually, a few different beats. And then he sent them over, and we went into Nico's. I went into Nico's studio with Nico, of course. Nico Vega is his name. And he was programming away, man. I was playing keys, and next thing you know, I sent it back to Kenny. Kenny would mix it. We would go back and forth and tweak it, and we had a finished product, and it sounded amazing.
Wow.
I mean, I'm blown away. And I
Wow.
said, goodness. So next thing you know, Damian Lazarus called me from Crosstown Rebels. He's like, Louis, I just signed DJ Crust, and DJ Crust is a drum and bass artist. He used to be part of the whole Ronnie Size crew from Bristol in England. And he wanted us to remix a DJ Crust song. And we did the same thing, same way again. And boom, the mix is super hot. Then Joseph Capriati calls. He's got a new album coming out, and he had a few tracks he wanted us to hear. And we picked the Byron Stingley tracks. He had Byron Stingley on the record. So same thing again. Nico Vega programming skills. All right, upstairs we were like laying them down, sending back to Kenny, back and forth. We mixed it, and boom. You
Yeah.
know, it's wonderful the way it works because acapella comes, send it over to Kenny. Kenny drops beats on it, sends it over. I play all the keys on it. Nico's programming and engineering that session. I send it back over to Kenny. He mixes it, puts all the effects and everything, sends it back. Then we tweak it back and forth, bring this up, bring this down, EQ this, do this, that, whatever, until we got the finished product. And we've been making records this way, and we're on a roll. It's really, really great because we are in a matter of 2.5 weeks, we did like 3 remixes, and
Damn.
it's been rolling really nicely. So we're really excited, and now we're about to release the MAW Records catalog because that also hasn't been at all streaming in digital outlets. It's only been on Traxsource and Beatport.
Yeah, yeah.
So we went through the entire catalog. We laced it. I mean, there's so much great material in there, all the right versions. I mean, it's tight. It's really, really wonderful. And we signed with an aggregator, and now we're about to release it at all streaming and digital outlets. So you'll be seeing Messes at Work music everywhere. And we're also have new material that we'll be releasing afterwards, after we release the entire catalog. So, we got a nice plan and some more goodies that I can't mention now. But
Yeah.
Masters at Work definitely have been together really making great music, man. We're so excited about it. We're really excited about it. The
And
beats are tight. What's him? The
y-
grooves, it's in there.
you got
I
me
think
excited.
you're gonna like the Byron Stingley for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, like
Yeah,
now
you're
you're
gonna
getting me all excited. Because
like
I was planning to ask you, will we get more work, more new stuff from Masters at Work? But I mean, you already
yes,
answered that. Um,
for sure.
so there's a lot of guys who I interviewed on the show, a lot of artists, and most of the DJs who started as DJs and now became producers. When I asked them about influences when it comes to production, specifically for house music, Masters at Work, the name keeps coming. Andy Compton was one of those people who were like, man, Masters at Work was like, yes, I knew I had to do house music from there. And I'm sure there's so many other artists who feel the same. But I want to ask you, what were some of the earlier releases that you and Kenny did, which um, maybe at first surprised you how well they were received, but most importantly, that those records that really got the reach, that more people started noticing the name MAW.
Well, I think in the beginning, when we first started together, I was working on the album with Mark Anthony. It's called When the Night Is Over. When I was working on that album, uh, which was signed by Atlantic Records, uh, I had met Kenny at the same time through a mutual friend, Todd Terry. He introduced us, and it's because Kenny had done a remix that I had liked called Salsa House, I believe. What was it called? Goodness, I know that he sampled Celia Cruz and Sylvester. So it was interesting how he sampled these two artists, one who is the queen of salsa music, and Sylvester. Come on, super disco icon. And this track was so hot And I said, Todd, who's this guy, Kenny Gonzalez? You know, I love this record he did, and I want to remix it, and maybe see if he's into it. Um, at that time, I had already played in all the big clubs in New York City. Uh, you know, so a lot of people kind of knew me, and I had already done remixes from even about 5, 6 years before that, and productions. And Kenny, I guess he heard me from the club scene and all that. So we got together and we just hit it off. And we just hit it off. And, I was looking for something different. I had already done this certain style of music called Latin hip hop and freestyle. Um, and I wanted to get more into house music. And I had already done a few records. I had done a lot of mixes for Todd Terry for his goodness, Black Riot, DMS, Sax. These are all Todd Terry's aliases because he had a lot of different names for his projects.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do more house music because I felt I could really take it to a different place uh, musically, and experiment with different cultures and bring it into house music and styles of music. And with Kenny, when we met, I was working on this album, When the Night Is Over, with Mark Anthony, and I had asked Kenny to come into the studio. So we spent a few months together in the studio. He was making beats for the album, and as he was making beats, I was playing keys, and we just connected very well. And we started creating these tracks out of small hooks on records and things, but it was it was a unique style, where you heard the influence of Kenny, where he brought a little hip hop into it, and these hard hitting beats, and I brought these grooves with chords that it had a feeling to it. I can't explain it. And we did a few of these dubs. And remember, I told you I was doing this style of music called Latin hip hop and freestyle and pop, music as well. And at the time, I was still getting remixes from a lot of the pop artists, and that's where I told Kenny, "What? Let's remix these records. They're pop records, but let's take the B sides and put these dubs on. You know,
Yeah.
let's put this new style of what we're doing on these B sides of the record, but still using the hook of the song." So we created these Masters at Work dubs. And if you listen to the early songs, ones I can mention to you that started really hitting dance floors hard was Debbie Gibson, One Step Ahead, the Masters at Work dub. Saint Etienne, Only Love Can Break Your Heart, the Masters at Work dub. And the list goes on. So many of them that we had done. And we also did an album at the time that we signed to Cutting Records. And that's where we took the dub style and created a song on top of it with I Can't Get No Sleep with India. And from there on, everybody wanted a Masters at Work dub. And that's when we worked with everyone from Jamiroquai to Madonna, Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
Lisa Stansfield, goodness, you name it, all the way down to Luther Vandross and B.B. Winans. And that's pretty much where it all started, was from those dubs. It did. That's what caught everybody's ear.
And I think with regards to underground music, because house music, I still regard it as underground music, and you guys at that time were already doing remixes for these super artists, like the pop stars, and one could sense that house is starting to get some kind of good recognition from mainstream music, like house is starting to be seen as mainstream. And I was chatting to DJ Spinner the other day. He was saying that at some point house was very much supported by mainstream, like it was the thing to a certain point. What are some of the things that you would say caused that change, like that really where did we lose the support of mainstream as house music?
Well, I could say that when house music first came out in the mid '80s, and you had groups like Ten City,
Mm.
uh, goodness, Inner City. They were on the radio, big on the radio.
Mm.
On the big stations, and in the early '90s when we were doing the dubs, they was pretty popular. They were getting on radio too, just the dub, which was kind of crazy. I was like, wow, they're playing this dub. It doesn't even have the song on it. It has a hook, and they're playing it. But I think with hip hop just blew up so big, and I even noticed because when I was playing in the clubs and even the clubs started changing, a lot of the clubs started getting more into hip hop. They were playing more hip hop music.
Mm.
The crowd was changing. I think the generation just changed.
Mm.
It was a generational change, and hip hop was it. So the clubs went more, or the house clubs went more underground.
Mm.
You know, it was a little bit smaller. Some were big. We had some big clubs in New York City in the '90s, but in the '80s you had like 20 Ministry of Sounds in New York City. Imagine that,
Oh,
with
damn.
big sound systems. But I think it was just the change of generations, and the music didn't go with it. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
And we started all moving towards the international side. We were all traveling.
Mm.
You know, for instance, in the '90s, when Masters at Work, we were making all that music. The club I was playing at was the Sound Factory bar, which only held about 800 people. From '85 to '90, I was playing in clubs. From '86 to '90, I was playing in clubs that held 2,500 to 4,000 people.
Mm.
You understand? Um, and you also had, the tail end of the Paradise Garage. You had Zanzibar, which they were the big clubs playing, a lot of the house music. And I was playing to a younger crowd,
Mm.
and from '85 to '90, I was playing for 16 ages 16 to 20.
Mm.
So I was playing for a very young crowd, huge numbers. You're talking Friday nights 2,500, 3,000 people. On Saturdays 4,000 people. And, it was heavy, it was big. But even that crowd, towards the tail end, it was leaning a lot more towards hip hop.
Mm.
And hip hop became the sound of the airwaves, and that was it.
Mm.
So dance music went back underground in the cities, but we started traveling. And at that time in the '90s, our music was going on the pop charts in like England, and when you get in the pop charts in England, all the other countries kind of
Mm.
follow that. So, and they were signing a lot of the music we were all making
Mm.
overseas in England, which spread out to all the other countries.
Mm.
You understand? So we became more international, and we started traveling more.
Yeah.
I still kept my Wednesday nights as much as I could all through to '97, and even after that, I still did Wednesday nights at different clubs. But I was always traveling as well as all the other DJs, and our music was embraced internationally
Mm.
much more than it was here in the States. It was more underground.
Mm. Yeah, and earlier on today, I was chatting to Vinny Da Vinci, and you know, I, I was asking him specifically about the Miami Winter Conference, and at its peak in the 2000 early 2000s and going into mid 2000s as well. And he was saying to me that, man, you need to ask Louis about this. So how would you describe WMC at its peak? What was happening in terms of parties?
Oh man! Well, imagine all your favorite DJs around the world playing in one place in a matter of 5, 6 days, and all the music that came out, because everybody would make music just for that conference. You understand?
Mm.
They would make their records to come out at that time, or for their test pressings or promos or whatever to come out at that time.
Mm.
And you would even see a lot of your favorite DJs playing together, which was rare too.
Mm.
So it was an incredible time because a lot of music was broken. I'll never forget when I can take credit for this because I remember it, and my friends, who signed the record tell me, is when I broke the record Free by Alternate. We were doing this night called the Magic Sessions, which we did with Leslie Doyle, who put this together. She used to do A&R over at Electra Records, and we did projects for her, like the Tito Puente records that came out, Para los Rumberos and Ran Can Can, and Coming on Strong Desire, the Magic Sessions, project, remix project. And many other parts. Melissa Morgan, Still in Love. She commissioned us to do all that music, and at the same time, she created this night called the Magic Sessions that she wanted to do in Miami, and bring together myself, Kenny, Todd, and Tony Humphries, and later on, Tech Patterson joined, and we had incredible nights. But in those nights, you had everybody from the music industry hanging out in one room with all the fans and people who loved whatever DJs were playing. And we would get these test pressings of all this stuff or things that hadn't come out yet. And I remember when I was given Free by Alternate, and I love the record. I said, wow, this record is huge. And when I played that record, by the time it got to the second chorus, the whole crowd sang it. This is the first time they ever heard it, and nobody had heard it.
Damn.
And next thing the labels from overseas, from England, were bidding for it, and that's how records would get signed. And then next thing you know, that's how records blew up in England, and they would go onto the pop charts in England when it was signed by this major label, or this labels that would license it over. When they would hear it at the Winter Music Conference. And I wasn't the only one. There were other DJs breaking records. I mean, Tony Humphries, he broke Everybody Be Somebody. I won't ever forget that. And I that's when I signed it, actually. I wanted to sign it to Kenny and I. We were like, yo, we got to have this record. And Humphries played it, and the crowd went mad. So, a lot of us were breaking records there, and they would eventually get signed overseas and become huge international hits.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening at the same time as everybody having a good time or whatever. And then you would have the panels. People would speak on the panels. People would register to be part of the conference to experience the panels with a lot of their favorite artists talking about, or people in the business sharing knowledge. So there was a lot of that going on in the 90s, that is. And we had been doing it for a pretty long time, some years. And then Kenny and I, when we started Masters at Work was so big at the time that we felt we needed to do some parties. And that's when we started doing our parties at the Winter Music Conference in the late 90s. And we did them along with a friend of ours, Carmelo Fear, who promoted a lot of our parties. And we did the first party, I believe, with Kenny Lattimore and Sarah Devine. Yeah. But before that, we had put out New Eureka Soul with Giant Step and Talking Loud. And Giant Step put together a party for us in the Winter Music Conference. That was in 97 or 96, I think, one of the 2 years. And we brought out, they brought out Roy Ayers and India, and Kenny and I were playing music, and we had a lot of our friends there. I mean, it was really special. And as we kept doing the Masters at Work parties in the year 2000, we did our 10-year anniversary. And that's the one that really took it over the top because we brought together Roy Ayers, BB Winans, Stephanie Mills, James Ingram. Oh goodness, Luis Salinas. I mean, the list goes on and on. It was about 10 artists for the 10 years,
Mm.
and to me, that was one party that we will never forget. It was our 10-year anniversary, and um, '99, I went for the first time to South Africa, and I played in Soweto. So from there, that's when I signed Loot a little later,
Yeah.
and brought out to play at our anniversary party. It was Oskido, DJ Fresh, Vinny. I mean, the whole crew was there. Um, and that was the start of my relationship with South Africa.
Mm.
But in 2000, that party with the Masters at Work party, we had two rooms of music. In the other room, that's when we introduced the sound of South Africa with all the guys, and it was really special.
Yeah.
Everybody together. I mean, Daft Punk was there. I mean, you name it. Everybody who was making music at that time, or uh, you know, from artists to DJs to music business people to fans, were all there, trying to get into that party, or they were in that party having a great time.
Yeah. Greg was sharing the story yesterday about um, the song "Loot" by Mafiki Zolo, and how you were one of the first people who were really um, promoting South African music out that side in the US. But I want to ask you, what was it about South Africa? When did that connection happen with you, and what was it about the country that you felt so connected to?
Well, I always tell everybody there are two places around the world that I have a deep connection with, and one is Naples, Italy, and the other is Johannesburg, South Africa.
Mm.
When I first went to Johannesburg in '99, I believe it was '99. It was for uh, Kiss FM, and it was Greg Maloka, and others who had brought me out. And I think it was the Masters at Work music that really pulled, grabbed the attention. I think Greg loved the music, and he wanted to introduce it to South Africa and introduce me to South Africa. So at that time, I believe Kenny may have been traveling, because we were traveling in different places, sometimes together and sometimes in different places being booked. And I was booked for this show, and I will never forget, there were over 30,000 people, in Soweto, right? That's where I first went. And that's where my love for South Africa started, when I felt the love from the people and how they just absorbed the music and the energy, as I was playing. And it's funny because I always tell Greg in the beginning, I think I was playing a song like Burning by Pepe Braddock or something like that. And Greg was behind me, and all the people were in front. I was on the screens and everything, and I was like, goodness. I was nervous, and but I did my thing. And when I was playing that song, I turned back and I said, Greg, you think the crowd is into it? Because he was like, Louis, they're studying and they're absorbing the energy. They're feeling the music. Trust me. And after some tunes, I mean, it was mind blowing. It was really mind blowing. And I felt the love. And I'll never forget, after that show, I hung out with Oskido, Pepsi, I mean, the whole crew, till like the wee hours of the morning, just talking about music. You know, we,
Mm.
we just talked about music. And that's when I went back, like, so energized. And I told Kenny, I said, Kenny, man, they got great music in South Africa. I can't believe it. You know, I said it's in a different language. It's in Kuwaito, right? And it was, it's house beats, but the music reminds me of Larry Heard, the chords,
Mm.
and the grooves, you know. And it's crazy because about 6 months later to a year, a lot of the music that I was playing and all the Masters at Work music became that an influence like the way the Larry Heard music was. And then you heard the music changing to almost like little inflections of MAW sounds and grooves, but in the Kuwaito language. And then the beats as well changed more like the flavor. And that we have been doing and stuff. And it was really nice to see how that one gig influenced all this, and the interviews, and me playing live at the station, and me sharing music with the guys, and the DJs, everybody there, and just that synergy, created something fresh.
Mm.
And ever since then, I mean, I've been going out there for so many years, and it's always a special experience, really, for me. Every time I go, it's different all the time. And, you hear the new styles and sounds coming out of South Africa. It's really nice. So, once I go in, it takes a few days to absorb what's going on,
Mm.
and seeing what people are feeling,
Mm.
you know? And then that influences me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you may hear some of that in my music. So, it's really nice what music does. And
Yeah.
you know, uh, that's a beautiful thing about it, how we're all sharing and connecting.
Mm. Mm.
So, I mean, I have so many friends uh, that, I mean, we became family over the years,
Mm.
to this day. And it's really nice. You're always meeting new talent, new people, and you know, fresh sounds. I love that the wheels are always spinning out there.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm
And
proud of all of the guys that have, lifted and gone international. And it's beautiful to see, Black Coffee, Black Motion, Kuro de Song, Euphonic, Fresh, everybody traveling around the world, and spreading their music and love.
mm. And I think also it's because of some of the contributions made by people like you know, in the music industry. Because um, when I was a kid, you know, in high school, and compilations were such a big thing, and DJ Fresh, Oskido, Greg, Vinny, and Christos. Those guys really brought so much house music into the scene, and there were many other guys as well. Iggy Smalls was one of them, the late Iggy Smalls, DJ Monde, and you know, the kind of just the way they introduced house music, and seeing them, you know, at the time, Greg and most of them were actually on radio. Vinny, maybe not as a presenter, but he was definitely on radio playing mixes. Um, just that having people from the underground now in positions of in radio station positions, and whether as presenters or as music compilers or just mixers in the station, it just increased the the promotion of the music, if I may put it that way. And it's such a big thing to see how much that has grown. You know, when you look at the South African music, house music scene specifically. Um, but I have to ask you, Louis, because I see you as a champion of the underground. You know, because of the longevity that you've had in the scene, and still sticking to Louis Vega. You know, your sound is your sound, and even though like you've got different elements, different feels of Louis Vega, but it's still house music. It's still underground house music. It's still kind of it's authentic. But I want to ask you: does reaching your levels of success come with challenges of balancing what you wanna charge in terms of money like for the brand as a DJ, um, because you've grown so much, and it does make sense to see you playing at Delicious Festival, not with elements of live, but like just with you as a DJ on a big stage to 10,000 people. It does make sense. Like that's you're an artist of that caliber. But does that bring challenges when it comes to you really playing the underground gigs, because when you come to South Africa, bro, we never see you in the townships, we don't see you in Durban, we don't see you in the inner cities, a smaller kind of gigs, but that are really underground, because I truly believe that's where the die-hard fans of Louis Vega are, and most of these people might not afford a ticket to go see you at Delicious Fest. I was so happy to see you last year at barbecue rooftop in Johannesburg, which was less of a big event, rather more intimate. But still, we don't see much of you in the townships. Is it always a balance of can really people afford you, or are there other things that factor?
No, I think well, the main thing is, I mean, in terms of South Africa, it's such a far trip, so it's very expensive to get you even there
Mm,
to you know to accommodate you in the hotels, everything, for
mm,
that time. So for a smaller gig, yeah, it's very difficult. So it takes the big gigs like a Delicious Festival that can bring you out there. Now, what I try to do is I'll speak to Delicious, let's say, and say, okay, well, maybe can I do this smaller gig a few days later after the festival? I always try to work things out and do things. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It depends on, the festival bringing you out,
mm,
because they're the ones that are paying for the meat of the trip,
mm,
you know. So if it's cool with them, it's cool with me. And then obviously, you charge a lot less to a smaller venue because obviously, a smaller venue is not going to afford those kind of prices. So,
mm,
listen, I've played in clubs anywhere in Japan. I played in a club for 200 people, but I've also played in front of 30,000 people. So I think it depends. It depends on the people that are hiring you
mm,
to come play for them. If they're cool with it, then yeah. I've always wanted to do a lot of these small clubs in the townships and in South Africa. Trust me, I've tried, uh, and hopefully I will be able to do it. When I come out. Um, Man, you don't know how many times I wanted to play in Soweto, and I always, and Greg Maloka is a key to a lot of this because he has brought me out with the Kai FM events, uh, as well as Delicious with the band and myself as a DJ. So there's a lot of research that has to be done when you're gonna play, in places you haven't played before, and a lot of the smaller places. So trust me, I want to do them.
mm,
I love playing in that type of intimate, setting.
mm,
I do want to do it. So don't think I don't ever want to do it because I want to play in a big festival. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's about the business side of things with the people that are hiring you to
mm,
come out. You have to respect that as well.
mm,
So, but in a lot of cases, in one case, the crew at Delicious are real cool, where uh, we can work out something where they're okay with me doing a smaller venue.
mm.
The main thing is everybody wants to sell their tickets. As long as their tickets are sold, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's okay to do something.
yeah. No, it makes
So
sense.
let's see what happens in the future, man, and let's see what's gonna happen in the future because we don't even know when we're going out yet.
Hey, we don't even know, man. Yes, yes. And I mean, I'm so sad that we're missing Delicious Festival this year because of
Mm.
COVID-19. But yeah, I guess, I mean, not I guess, but life comes first. Um, I want to ask you, I've always been a fan of big bands, and big band sound. Even in my own productions, I make sure that I record full songs as much as I can. whether it's recording live horns or live strings and live percussion, similarly to how you have done it over the years with elements of life. And I want to ask you, like, how did the formation, firstly, how did the formation of the band come about? And the other question that I do want to ask you is, because you used to play, I mean, you mentioned that you still play keys or on the stuff that you do with Kenny. Um, how have you not gotten lazy to do, to play keys when, I mean, with elements of life, you've got the best. Axel is one of the best players. In my case, I've got really one of the best pianists in South Africa, Tandin Tuli, who's really a super jazz pianist. But I've got her on my production, so I've taken a few steps back when it comes to playing stuff on my own music. But because I've been so blessed with so many good musicians, I can focus fully on the production and worry less about me trying to get better. Have you gotten lazy as well yourself with regards to playing keys?
Well, I think, you get spoiled. You have all these amazing musicians around, and they can do anything, practically. So for me, when it comes to masters at work, Kenny pushes me more to play keys. He's like, Louis, I want you to play keys. When we do it together like that, it comes out different. It's special. So I push more. When we're working together, for me to play. You know, especially now, because we went through a point where we had a lot of different musicians with masters at work. In the studio, Albert Sterling Menendez, Salon Lerner. I mean, goodness, you know, Mike Ciro. These are keyboard players, guitar players. Gene Perez on bass. Lucido Quintero on percussion. Which some of those players I took later on for Elements of Life for the band. But you know, you definitely get spoiled when you're working with musicians like that, of that caliber. You know, but I think every tune, every track, whatever you're working on, calls for a certain thing. Sometimes you may need all of it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you may need just a bass player with you playing keys, or you may need a key. Maybe I may use Axel and not even, maybe I may use a synth bass. So I may not use Gene Perez. You know what I mean? So different projects call for different musicians that I use, or it may just be myself and Kenny on drums and beats and keys.
And just still staying on elements of life.
Yes.
I was watching, because when I was chatting to Greg and he told me about your uncle Hector Lavoe, and while I was just looking up, and I was watching a performance by Fania All Stars, right? And they were playing somewhere in Africa. And funny thing about that performance, the whole stage was lit, but the whole crowd was dark, like, and you could see maybe small spotlights. But one thing, the reason I'm mentioning it, and I want to ask you though, um, did you get your style of conducting, especially when you're performing with EOL, from people like Johnny Pacheco?
Of course, come on, that was cool for me when I was a kid. Remember, I was brought up with bands. My father was in a band. For many years, he was in bands, local bands, and then you had my uncle who had his band. And I would go to the rehearsals sometimes with my mother to see him, or I would see him performing in Madison Square Garden. I would see the Fonny All Stars with my mother. I was a little kid. She's taking me along and stuff, and um, I guess subliminally you're seeing all this, and I think that eventually it rubs off on you. And of course, I've watched Tito Puente as well, Eddie Palmieri, because I've been friends with all of them, and I've gone to their shows, their rehearsals, and have seen them conducting their bands, and I mean, you watch them, and eventually when you're doing your thing, there are some things you probably grab from them that you didn't even know. But for me, I wasn't even going to conduct the band. It was when we first started rehearsing Elements of Life when we did the first album. It was Gene Perez who pushed me to do it because he said, I said, "Yo, guys, we gotta get this tight, man, because you're gonna be up there on stage." And he goes, "What are you talking about? You're not gonna be up on stage with us?"
Yeah.
I said, "No." And Gene's like, "Louis, you should really, in the rehearsals, you're conducting the band. Look at your arms, everything you're doing. You're counting us in. You're doing it
Mm.
naturally." I said, "Really?" I said, "I wasn't noticing that. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about being on stage with you guys. You guys are gonna go do this, you know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on the side, like, But he's like, "No, you should really do this." And I've, our first tour was in Japan. We did all the Blue Notes in four different cities,
Mm.
and it was Josh Milan, Anane, and Raul Midon were the leads, and we had the full-on band. We had Luisito Quintero on percussion. We had Gene Perez on bass. Goodness, on keys. Albert went with us the first time. Menendez, yeah. Um, I believe Salon went another time. I can't remember the full-on crew, uh, but we went and did 16 shows at the Blue Notes, and I figured, okay, well, if I'm going to get, you know, uh, my feet wet in conducting the band, let me do it at the Blue Notes
Yeah.
because we have 16 shows for me to get it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me tell you, it was the most fun thing that I have done in a long time. I really enjoyed myself, and it was really nice to be able to, you know, almost like DJing live. I was able to extend the songs when I wanted, when I felt it, break it down. And these guys were, I mean, this band was amazing. And the singers, everybody was on point.
Mm.
And we, they convinced me to do the conducting. It was the band. It was Gene Perez and the band
Mm.
and the singers. They all convinced me. And ever since then, I've been on stage with them. It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you have pros up there, Josh Milan on the Wurlitzer, and
Yeah.
now we have Axel Tosca on the Rhodes. Gene Perez on bass as always. Luisito Quintero on drums and percussion.
Mm. Mm.
We have Dawn Tallman on backgrounds, Ramona Dunlap, and Anane, as well as Anane singing lead, Josh Milan singing lead. I mean, and then we have guests from different, depending on the cities we're in, we bring out different guests. We brought out Julie McKnight, we brought out Monique Bingham, Adiva, um, Jocelyn Brown. I mean, it's really wonderful because of the extensive work that we've done over the years. We're able to invite artists that have at least 3 or 4 songs with us.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
it's a beautiful thing to do those shows. Really special.
And that year when you came when you guys played Delicious Festival was really amazing. It was, yeah, it was something else. And I've been trying to think about how to do the live band thing. I mean, I've done it in 2017 with my debut album. I've done a few performances, but it was mainly kind of still having the drum backtrack and a few elements in the rhythm section in the drum still playing. So I would be having a DJ setup, but still you have most of the musicians there who played the music and had the singers obviously. And I don't know if it wasn't for the decks and playing the backtrack. I'm just not sure if I'm confident enough, to do the whole conducting thing. So, I think I just want to keep it to what I can do, but it's something that I really want to pursue fully going forward. Just the live band thing, and the reason I'm mentioning this is because I've gotten to a point where, as a soulful artist, um, I've kind of like um, found it difficult for me to do other styles of music. I've tried, but like harder sounding styles of music. But I do want to travel the world, and I think, would you say that having especially starting with the music. If the music is great, if the production is good, and it is sounding like it was made live, because that's how I do my stuff. Would you say that it's something that's viable to take on tour globally?
Of course, man. Don't ever think you can't do anything. You can conduct, you can do it. It just takes practice and you feeling comfortable with the band and them feeling them reading you in a way. You know what I mean? And I think that you can do it. Trust me, you can do it. You know your music more than anybody. You know where you want it to break down. You know where you want the singers to come in. You know, um, you can learn all that stuff. You can learn how to count them in. You can learn your signals and gestures, and your band will feel your signals and gestures. Hey, I didn't know anything about it, and when I went in with the band, they made me feel really comfortable, and the singers made me feel really comfortable, and they trusted me, and of course I trusted them. So once you build that, I think you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Because every little part of those songs.
Yeah.
You do know them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the band always tells me. They're like, man, Louis, you remember when this one little riff was there, and and we didn't play the riff, but you wanted that riff. You know what I mean? It's it's your music.
Yeah.
You can do it. Don't ever think you can't. You got it in here, and you do have it in there. I can see it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I can't stop the interview without asking you about winning your Grammy, for the remix you did for Curtis Mayfield, and you know, just listening to that remix, I think that for me, that's how I see Grammys should be. Like, do you feel that Grammys have gotten to be less about the music over the years?
Well, it's really based on the members because the members as well can submit songs. So I think the more members they have that are into our music, the more we will have a chance of being noticed in there. You understand?
Mm, mm,
Um, I always make sure every year that we submit songs. Like this year, I was like, please, we need to submit "Let It Go." Louis Vega and the Martinez Brothers with Mark Basie.
yeah.
We got to get it in there. So I make the effort and submit the songs. Any member can submit a song,
Mm,
as well as record labels and everyone else who are members. But it's about it getting chosen from that
mm,
pile of 100 or more songs. I mean? Then it gets all the way to 5. So yeah, we were lucky to be able to make it with those nominations. I mean, been nominated 7 times and won 1 Grammy. And but one of my biggest, of course, winning the Grammy is the biggest, but accomplishment for me within the Grammys. But having the album Louis Vega Star in 28 nominated and being one of the 5, the final 5, was a big step because it was a big step for house music, for soulful house music to reach that level and get noticed.
yeah.
But I think now a lot of artists in the um, pop world or whatever stuff, everybody's more interested in dance music now. I think I think we have another chance for our music to get in there. If we're remixing Dua Lipa and artists like that again, of that caliber in the pop market, pop world. There's definitely a chance for our music to be heard in those circles. So but we're still here doing our thing, man. We love making music, and if it's underground, it's underground. If it goes overground, it goes overground. But it starts from the underground always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always starts from the underground, and that's how we make our music from here.
I feel you.
But I'm really proud of what's going on. A lot of our friends are releasing um, great music. It's really healthy right now. Everybody's in a creative state. I guess since they're locked away in their studios, they're focusing on, making a lot of music and their minds are in it. So I'm really happy with the music I see coming out.
Mm.
So you never know. It's just this whole whirlwind of great dance music
Mm.
about to happen.
Yeah, I
You know what I'm
certainly
saying?
feel the same. Yeah. Sorry
You
to
know, I'm
cut you.
looking at and for me, especially what's happening with Afro House and Afro Tech and everything. I'm really glad that the sound has progressed, to an international level, and you have Nulu music like what Anani's doing, and she's been pushing it for 10 years,
Mm.
10 years, and now it's got its own charts, it's got its own genre. You have Black Coffee, of course, um, Kudo the Song, you have Black Motion, everybody traveling the world and spreading the sounds.
Mm.
Of course, I support it. I play it, like crazy. That, and I make some of it too. So I I'm very happy that sounds like this are able to reach beyond where they started. You know,
Mm.
so I like the fact that there's a resurgence of disco, and all the young generation are into the disco sounds, and they're learning from the records from before. Because to me, you know, knowing your roots is very important. Knowing the
Mm.
roots of dance music. If you like dance music, no doubt about it, disco is a big part of it.
Mm. Mm.
You know, early house is a big part of it.
Mm.
You know, a lot of the sounds from the '90s are a big part of it.
Mm.
So learning about those sounds, I think, is going to be very good for you if you're into this music and you want to make this music. Um, it's a big part of the inspiration.
Mm.
Um, even me, I mean, I learned a lot of the music before. You know what I'm saying? I learned about music in the early '70s all the way till now. I'm always listening. I'm always listening to what's coming up, who's new, who's hot. New sounds as well. But I think some great advice for the young generation is to know your roots. Very
Mm.
important to know your roots.
Mm. Another
Um,
bit.
and you can incorporate that in your sound too. I mean, you see it. It's happened with all of us.
Mm.
Um, to everybody out there, just who's making music, all the DJs and producers, keep doing what you're doing. The new generation, let's keep opening our minds and appreciating good music. To me, that's what it's about. It's about good music. If something's good, it's good. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be categorized.
Yeah.
It doesn't have
True.
to be this thing or that thing. If it's good, it's good.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
I listen to jazz. I listen to rock. I listen to funk, soul, pop, everything. And you never know what's gonna bring out a little something in you when you listen to it and you start, doing your thing.
Mm.
Um, and for the youth out there, man, I just want to say thank you for the love and support. Everybody out there, young or older, everything. Thank you for the love and support that you've shown to, Masters at Work, New York, Soul Elements of Life, the Vega family, Lulu, you know, anything that, everything that we're involved with. I really appreciate the love that we've been receiving.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, like, I really appreciate the contribution, because I think not many people have actually managed to stay as long as you've stayed in the industry, and not only just be there passively, but to actively be involved, even to date, to actively be releasing the bangers. I mean, like, every time I probably don't even need to listen to a LOUIE Vega release. When I see it on tracks, so it's just going to my cart just like that, because I know the quality is there and the music is there, is what I like to play. And for you to be able to do that for as long as you have done, I'm really, really, truly grateful for that. And yeah, and I'm really grateful for the time that you've spent, taking your time and having a conversation with me. So thank you so much for that, brother.
Thank you, man. Well, everybody just look out for all the new music. I want y'all to know we got new Masters at Work coming. We got MAW Records revamped, the label. We have MAW remixes of Dua Lipa, DJ Crust on Crosstown Rebels, Joseph Capriati featuring Byron Stingley. We got a Nane coming with a disco EP called Take a Ride with Get on the Funk Train. That's her first single. Remixes by Mark Knight, Todd Terry, and yours truly. Also, of course, Let It Go, which was signed to Defected Records. That's Louis Vega and Martinez Brothers with Mark Basie. Video soon.
Mm.
And get ready because we got some music too that we're making as well. And we're gonna, we're working on some really special projects.
Yeah.
And goodness, Anane's Chapters of Becoming album, all the big jams are on there. Manu's remixing, Mike Dunn is remixing. We got Danny Cribbett, special edit, and Maporisa I'm talking to right now. So, we got a lot of hot music coming for you. And check out the new Incognito's Beautiful, that Joe Clozell and I remix coming out August 7th. August 7th and August 21st. We got Louis, Little Louis Vega starring George Lamond. It's called Woman. I'm reaching back to the roots when I used to play back in the freestyle days. And George Lamond is a huge artist in the freestyle and salsa music scene. We've gotten together and done the Barabbas classic, Woman, which is one of the classic jams from way back in the days. So we got a lot of hot music coming.
Man.
And get ready for Bodhisattva too. We got Invocation with remixes, the whole album. Tons of music on Vega Records and with the Martinez brothers, with Masters at Work, with Anane and the family.
Man, I'm so looking forward to that, Louis. I forgot to ask you about Kendrick. How did you guys meet? Because I was actually surprised to see him on the remix of that "Ain't That Fucking Color Hard on You."
Well, I didn't meet Kendrick. I wish I would have, but it was George Clinton that hooked that up because I
Oh,
think George Clinton had done one or two songs on Kendrick's album. He was invited by Kendrick on his album, and in return, uh, George Clinton asked Kendrick to guest on "Ain't That Fucking Kind of Hard on You," and I'll never forget when he told me too. He invited me to dinner in Brooklyn. And when I went to meet him out there, he said, whispered in my ear. He said, I got a surprise for you. He goes, Louis, man, I got Kendrick on the cut. I said, what? Kendrick Lamar? He goes, yes. I was like, whoa. I was so happy, man. And he did such a great, great job on it. It was great. They sent over the parts and I laid it over the track and it was perfect.
yeah, super.
So that was a big accomplishment to
Yeah,
be able to have George Clinton and Kendrick Lamar on
yeah,
one track, and it's for the house world. You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. Super,
Yeah,
super. Anyway, Louis, I'm sure you and I could talk for hours and hours.
I
This,
know,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I think hopefully by the time you everything has kind of died down with COVID-19 and you come to South Africa, maybe then we'll have another proper conversation, a sit down, and really go into in depth with other stuff that we didn't get to. But anyway, I want to
Yes.
say thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, man.
Peace out. And to everyone who's watching, if you enjoyed the conversation, please text somebody who can enjoy it too, who might learn from it. And please share the video so more people can see the video. And let's remember to stay creative. Peace out.